the Hawks just came into Milwaukee and took a win. I mean, what else do you want to see? Look, I'm not going to be as loud as normal. I'll just preface that because there are people doing construction right next to me, so I'm not going to be screaming. But inside, yeah, we're screaming because the Hawks, game one, Trae Young. I mean, I've heard it all. Ben Simmons, Matisse Thybulle, Joel Embiid, they're going to lock him up. Oh, well, actually, Drew Holiday's probably a better matchup because he's actually more suited to, like, smaller guards. Yeah? He's more suited to smaller guards. Well, is Trae too big, too strong, too big, too strong? Because Trae ends up with, how many points does he end up with? 48 and 11 assists. Let me just repeat that one more time. First game, Eastern Conference Finals. No Bogdanovic. Well, Bogdanovic was on one leg, only ends up with 4 points. He struggled. He continues to struggle. It's rough to see. Going to need him to at least contribute at some point. I think that's going to be pivotal. No Bogdanovic. No DeAndre Hunter. Cam Reddish, injured / kind of still working his way back. Trae Young, first game of the Eastern Conference Finals against one of the elite defenses against one of the elite teams. 48 points, 11 assists. I said he was top 10 in the league after last series. He's top 10 in the league. Like, what else do you need to say? I don't have a list on deck that I can just read off the top. Yeah, there's Steph, there's KD. No. But I'm just saying, fit him in that top 10. I don't care who you take out, kick someone out, because he is a top 10 player in the league right now, and it's evidenced by the fact he continues to go back and forth with Embiid, even despite being guarded by a potential Defensive Player of the Year candidate, an all-defensive player, 3 all-defensive players on one team, went back and forth with Philadelphia, and now he's just dropped 48 and 11 on Milwaukee's head in Game 1 without a lot of players that have really helped this team throughout the year, without a lot of guys who are going to give this team scoring. This is an injured Atlanta team. This is a wounded Atlanta team. That doesn't get talked about enough because pretty much only us actually care about the fact that DeAndre Hunter was incredibly pivotal in that next series, that Bogdanovic is on one leg now, even though they're starting to mention that now because they can physically see that Bogdanovic is out there limping, and then Reddish as well could provide some kind of wing defense and some versatility, which could be nice. That's only things that we're actually mentioning, but that doesn't matter because Trae Young is seemingly doing it with anyone. Now, we're not going to say with anyone because other guys stepped up. In particular, John Collins ends up with 23 and 15? 23 and 15. And it was similar to that Philly game when they turned the series around in Atlanta, where John Collins had a couple of those huge dunks. He had that one putback dunk that was pivotal. I think it was off a Kevin Huerter 3. The Hawks were down by 5 or 7 at the time, and it looked like Milwaukee might have been running away with it. They had the momentum. Trae wasn't making his shots. Everything was suggesting Milwaukee might close out the game. John Collins gets a putback dunk out of absolutely nowhere. Then the Hawks start to gain a bit of momentum, and then down the stretch, Ice Trae. I mean, he's just too cold. He's just too good. It's that simple. He continues to do it. I mean, what do people want to see? People doubted the Hawks against the Knicks, the 76ers, the Bucks. Do I have to continue to make a video every single time saying don't doubt the Hawks? I don't think I need to get into that. I don't think there's any point in doing it because if you're still doubting the Hawks at this point, well, you're not watching them, which is a lot of people's issues that none of them are watching them, but now you've seen what Trae can do. Now you have truly seen how good Trae Young is, and the rest of this Hawks team as well, because as I said, Collins stepped up. He had a big 3 as well in that corner as well. Collins has been clutch these last 2 series in particular. Just clutch plays on both ends of the floor, whether it's snagging a rebound, getting a block shot, hitting a corner 3, putback dunks, momentum dunks. I mean, that one off the backboard. What the? Kent Bazemore said it himself. Like, they practiced that. They used to practice that. There's no way you're doing it in a game. You won't do it in a game. Maybe in a blowout against, like, a lowly team. Oh, game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals in Milwaukee. Throw it off the backboard to John Collins to put that on Brook Lopez's head. I mean, this guy has no chill. Like, you saw the shimmy off the crossover. Drew Holiday was in a different planet. That man got sent into a different realm. He was in a different stratosphere, like any of those words that you want to use. He was not within space of Trae Young. He was so far away that Trae had time to shimmy, look at Bobby Portis, and then, knock it down. Because it's one thing to shimmy, it's another thing to directly knock that shot down after all of that. And he continues to deliver. He'll deliver on every single thing he does. He's done that so far, and he continues to do it. And this Hawks team in general, as I said, it wasn't just Trae. I mean, Trae was spectacular. They don't even come close to winning this game if it isn't for Trae. But Kevin Huerter stepped up. He made some shots. His three-point shot wasn't falling, but he was using his size inside. And I really like when Huerter's doing that because I think generally he can get those mismatches. They sometimes treat him as though he's not like that, but he is like that. He is like that. If you get Connaughton switched onto it, Forbes, or even in the minutes Teague was playing, any of those guys get switched onto Kevin Huerter, you're backing Huerter to make that shot, whether it's in the mid-range, whether it's a floater, whether it's contested. It doesn't really matter. I'd back him in to do that, and I love when they're getting Huerter involved in that action. They were really exploiting Brook Lopez. It was interesting to see. We were waiting to see what would happen with Lopez, and he looks unplayable right now. He looks absolutely unplayable. There was one passage at the start of this third quarter where Trae Young hit a floater off a screen, Bogdanovic hit a floater off a screen, Huerter hit a floater off a screen, and then Budenholzer was like, yeah, this isn't working. This isn't working because they've just hit 3 floaters in a row and they're going to continue doing it. Like, it's not going to work. So they've pretty much nullified Lopez completely. I'd be surprised if he gets much more run in this series. I'd be surprised. And that's where the loss of DiVincenzo is big for the Bucks. Now, if you're a Bucks fan, and there's not going to be any jokes really about the Bucks fans because I've got nothing against them. Really, I don't really have anything against them either, but it's kind of funny to joke about them. But this is where you miss DiVincenzo because he was someone that would step up and then you probably wouldn't have too many qualms about playing him and sitting Lopez for most of the game, going small with Giannis at the 5, even that's not really small, but you get the point. But now all of a sudden, Connaughton, that air ball at the end of the game, Connaughton, do you really trust him to play 35 minutes a game? I don't know if you do. And again, this is like I was saying, this is where if you're a Bucks fan, you can't really complain. This team's missing DeAndre Hunter, Bogdanovic is on one leg, and Reddish has been out. Like, you can't complain about injuries. But just speaking objectively, this is where DiVincenzo would be really impactful and would probably just can Lopez altogether. I don't think Lopez would be playing this much if DiVincenzo was still healthy, but he isn't, and, well, they have to decide between, do you want Connaughton's airballs, or do you want Lopez's drop coverage? Or do you want Jeff T? I guess Bobby Portis can give you some minutes as well. It's not really the dilemma you want if you're a Bucks fan, and that's what the Hawks did in the first game. As I said, Trae, he was hitting them with those floaters really aggressive early, getting to his floater spot, which is what you love to see. By the end, he settled for a few threes, but he made them when it counted. He made that 1 3, I think, towards the end, which was important. But in general, when he gets to his floater spot, particularly in drop coverage, I mean, it's in 90% of the time. Like, it's in 90% of the time. And when it's not in, when it's not a floater, it's an off-the-backboard slam for John Collins. It's upstairs for Capella. It's upstairs for Collins. He's just that special that he completely took the defense apart. He completely tore them apart, and they were just questioning everything. Now, they changed a bit when Giannis went to the 5, and we're going to have to look out for those things because I'd imagine Giannis will play most of the minutes at the 5 for the rest of this series, as I was saying, with Portis probably playing some minutes, and Lopez might get some run, but not much. So they're going to have Giannis at the 5, which is going to change a few things. But I think, like I said, you could then get Kevin Huerter, you then get Gallinari, and then you try to take advantage of Pat Connaughton. You try to let Pat Connaughton beat you with his threes, and that's what they were doing. They were walling up against Giannis. They did a good job against him. He finishes with 35 points, 14 of 25, which is pretty good. You take that if you're going against Giannis. You take that. You sent him to the line a few times, and in general, you walled up against him well. Capella played good defense against him. Some possessions, he played great defense, and Giannis scored. That's inevitable. But you wall up against him, and you make Connaughton beat you, and you make Lopez beat you, and you make Portis beat you. You make all of those guys beat you. Middleton and Holiday, you probably don't want to give as much space. Holiday got a little bit of space today. He ends up with 33 points. But you have 67 points combined between Holiday and Giannis, and you don't win the game. I know Trae ends up with 48, but in general, you take that if you're a Bucks fan. Holiday has been struggling. He had a big game, and the Hawks were still able to pull it out, which is incredibly impressive and incredibly promising going forward because you just saw how Trae can completely take this defense apart and just have them scrambling. Have them completely scrambling. Now all of a sudden, Budenholzer's got some big decisions to make. Will Lopez even start next game? It's questionable. It's very questionable. And, well, the Hawks, man. The Hawks. We've been talking about it all season. Well, for the last half of the season, we've been talking about how legit this team is, and this was the biggest example. I think this is their most impressive win to date, because this is with Bogdanovic on one leg. This is no DeAndre Hunter. This is no Cam Reddish. This is against a Bucks team that just beat a Nets team that was injured, but regardless, this is a pretty much healthy Bucks team without DiVincenzo, and they just beat them. With Giannis having a good game, with Holiday having a good game, Middleton was off, but in general, they had a pretty good game between their stars, and the Hawks went into Milwaukee, game 1, Eastern Conference Finals, and pulled it out. Like, what else do you want to see? As I said, I'm a little bit more hyped than I'm sounding because there are people doing construction, so I'm not going to be out here screaming. But like, come on. What else do you need to see? Atlanta, that's game 1. 1 down, 3 to go.